Hello, all, and welcome to this week's solo episode of the BKTY podcast. I'm your host, John Wynn, and without further ado, let us get into today's topic. We as a BKTY podcast, both me and Hallie, we decided to take a collective break, just a week of recording episodes. But now we're back, and we're both doing well, especially with everything going on, and especially with how Florida's looking out right now in terms of the virus. And we do encourage here at the BK2 podcast to please be safe, wear masks, practice social distancing, because just like you guys, we want to be able to be out and about sooner rather than later, and we also want to make sure that everyone comes out okay, or at least as many people can come out okay as possible. With that out of the way, what I want to bring up today is a kind of a topic, it's really personal with me, and therefore it's something I really wanted to talk about and really wanted to share with you guys, and that's the concept of pain. So, pain is interesting because I'm not referring to, let's say, like physical pain, although it can be physical pain, but really traumatic or very life changing sort of events kind of inflict a lot of pain on your psyche, on you physically, and it can really affect your mental health for years upon years, if not the rest of your life. And there is a really important distinction that I've learned to sort of think about and to really make clear, and that's that there's a difference between pain and suffering. And by that I mean that with, say, a traumatic event, I'll refer to my own experiences because that's where I have, sort of the best place to pull from. So with my experiences with depression, I had a really traumatic event happen when I was 13. I won't get too deep into it, but it sort of kickstarted the campaign of depression without my life that affected me so badly up until recently when I started receiving treatment. And through that experience, I learned that there were so many times in which I would sort of wallow or stay in the pain that I felt um, from my experiences. And for some reason, I enjoyed it. And you might be thinking that's a bit counterproductive. Why in the world would you enjoy pain? And so I want to bring up sort of this analogy. It's about crucibles, which are these, usually cast iron or, just big pots almost of really, really hot liquid. And the most common times I would see a crucible, because obviously I'm not a medieval age blacksmith, was to craft swords in all these good old movies that had, good old blacksmiths and apprentices that would forge hot steel and things like that. And the phrase that's always said is that the crucible needs to be hot. It needs to be so burning hot that it solidifies the steel. And it's used as this sort of metaphor that we as people grow to be stronger and grow to be better through the fires, through the harsh events of our lives. Every time you encounter a struggle, a challenge, um, every time you conquer something that has been plaguing your life in and out, you get stronger for it. And I agree with that sentiment. But the reality is that sometimes you don't exactly come out of it completely. You don't come out stronger. Instead, there are those who essentially go through the crucible and find themselves on better footing, find themselves improved and sort of learning from who they are. And some of them stay in the crucible and they burn day after day, hour after hour, living every single day in that pain. And it's shockingly common, I want to say, because there's just a really big attitude of just, it's sort of like the constant pain of dealing with this traumatic sort of event, dealing with these emotions is often preferable by many people than to encounter the large amount of pain it takes to try and move away from it completely. Because if you talk to anyone, and especially me, I can definitely tell you that sometimes the problem, even though it causes you so many issues on a daily basis, you don't really want to go through the legwork or the amount of emotional distress that it takes to really tackle that problem head on, such as my depression. I dealt with that day in, day out for 6 years before I decided to try to really tackle it and get some professional help. And getting that professional help was really hard. It was very taxing on me because, I was really scared and I was really anxious and I had no idea what to do. And I was really nervous because I was afraid of judgment. I was afraid of things going wrong. And so because I chose to not I wanted the least amount of pain right now, I actually stretched out my pain and suffering from the trauma as a young kid over pretty much the course of all of my formative years. Almost all of my teenage years were plagued sort of by this sort of demon that I had. And that's why I wanted to come on the mic today and talk about why why is it that people actually seemingly want this, or they enjoy it, or they would rather have that pain every single day than to really try and tackle it in the hopes of diminishing the pain or even removing it. And the first thing that I noticed through the examination of my own experiences was this sort of idea that you sort of get comfortable with it. And now it's a bit odd, because if you think about like a burning hot crucible, you wouldn't think that's very comfortable. But when all you know is sort of this same pain every day, day in, day out, over this same issue, you sometimes internalize it and you realize that you've been in pain so long, you've been suffering for so long that trying to remove that pain or trying to live life without it, it causes anxiety, it causes fear. And that's what it was like for me. Every day, day in, day out, I'd be sad, depressed, low energy. I'd be beating myself up over pointless mistakes. I'd be really hard on myself. I had terrible self-esteem. I had really high degrees of self-hate. And those things were so bad and they made my life hell, but I still didn't want to seek professional help. I didn't want to sort of get out of the suffering because I've suffered for so long that I sort of liked it. It was the normal. It was my comfort zone essentially. And as anyone knows, going outside your comfort zone, it's nerve wracking. It's fearful. It makes you kind of like lock up. Like you don't want to do that because uncertainty is such a scary thing, especially for a person, that has been struggling with tons of mental issues. Like the idea that your life could get even more destabilized is it's earth shattering to you. And so of course, now that I have the retrospective, now that I've actually gotten the help and my condition has improved like tenfold, so much ever since then, I can say without a doubt that the push to sort of ameliorate the pain and to stop the suffering, it's always worth it. It's always worth it to really bite that bullet and realize that you things have to change so you can remove this pain from your life. Because if you say every day, like me, you say every day, you wake up, you say like, I can handle it, it's fine, I've done this for years, I can do it for years and years more, that it's not a big deal, it's not that bad. Other people are struggling with things, why can't I just do it? Why can't I be like them and just handle it? But all this logic, by the way, which is logic I had, these are all thoughts that ran through my head for years. It isn't right because it doesn't value you. And if you know anything about this podcast, we're all about, preaching about self-value. If you decide that you can handle it and that you can go in, day out, and it'll be fine, and it's not that bad, and you can still function, you can survive, you're not loving yourself because you're sacrificing your day-to-day happiness, your day-to-day well-being, just so maybe you don't worry your family, or maybe you're comparing yourself to other people saying that if they can handle it, you can handle it. But we I don't want anyone to sort of go through that same process that I did because it isn't right. Because it teaches you that you're expendable. Your emotional security is expendable in the pursuit of, not worrying your family or not worrying your friends or, you know, appearing normal or wanting to function, or wanting to be quote unquote, healthy. And I'm just here to say that you're not expendable. Your emotional security, your emotional happiness, that's so valuable. And that I want to always encourage to every single person listening here, like always take care of yourself. Love yourself deeply. And part of that is realizing when you need to ask for help because there's no shame in it. There's no shame in asking for help. And if you worry about worrying other people, they're going to worry anyways. If they finally, day after day, you break, you can't handle it anymore. And then you show them that side of you, they're going to worry their asses off because it got worse over the years because you suffered for so long and they never knew and they're going to be so stressed. They're just like, why didn't I help them? Why didn't I see it? If you stress, if you stress out your family now, if you ask for help now, if you sacrifice that pride, sacrifice that desire to sort of shield other people from maybe your problems, maybe you have this attitude of, you know, I'm I'm a broken person or I don't want my problems to become other people's problems. You're not loving yourself because if you love yourself truly and genuinely, you know that you need to accept the help and support of the people around you because those are the people that keep you going. It might not be your family, it might not be your friends, but it's so important to find people that really willingly care about you. And it's not okay to sort of sacrifice yourself at the sake of trying to not stress out those people because they care about you deeply and they want you just to be better. They want to help you through this tough time. They want to help you conquer this suffering, this pain. But you have to want it too. You have to work with them to help you. It's always okay to ask for help. It's always okay to tell the people that care about you the most about your problems and to say, "Hey, I'm going through some really tough shit right now. Can you help me out? Can you walk me through it?" And so on the back of that, I want to bring it back to me. And I want to bring it back to sort of when I said that I enjoyed it, that I enjoyed the pain and the suffering. Because like I said before, uncertainty is terrifying to any person whose life is already, you know, so chaotic, so filled with pain and misery and anger and sadness. When every day you have an emotional roller coaster from bottom to top and back to bottom again, the last thing you want is to introduce the possibility of more catastrophe. And this is what produces this sort of concept of survival over living. When you choose, like me, to sort of pursue a quote unquote normal life at the sake of not acknowledging your pain, not asking for help, you're surviving. You make it through the day, you make it to the next day, you make it to the next week, but that's it. You don't get to be happy. You don't get to enjoy life in the way that you should. The way that you deserve to be happy. Like full stop. You deserve to be happy. And you can't be happy if you're just trying to survive. But then you might ask, okay, how do I stop surviving? And this is the hardest part. Like everything that we talk about, it's so easy to just say things, but it's so hard to do them. And I get it. I get it. And to that, I say that the first step is finding people. Like I said before, the support network that you create, whether it be one person, whether it be 20, they're going to be the most important people in your life because they're going to be with you at your worst and they're going to help carry you to your best. I today would not be on medication without Hallie. She she sort of stuck with me through a lot of my hardest times. And through her support, I am here today in a much healthier state than I was. And in her example, we at the BKTY podcast with this message, we want to be the support of also other people who may be struggling, who may not know where to go. Find the people that care for you most and don't be afraid to ask them for help. Because if they really truly care about you, they'll help you. They're your friends, they're your family. And if you're in the case like I was many years ago, where you feel you have no one, there's no one to help, no one to seek, no one who seems to care about you, I would definitely go talk to a therapist or go talk to a counselor, talk to anyone. Even if they don't provide the most great advice, even if they aren't the people that can solve your problems or, you know, really genuinely pull you out of your rut. Talking about it allows you to think through it, and talking about it also allows you to sort of unearth that burden from your shoulders. Because if you don't, you'll suffer. You'll suffer every day, in and out. Pain is necessary. Suffering isn't. In an ideal world, you you encounter you encounter struggle and adversity. You encounter these hard issues and these things that, stay with you for the rest of your life. But you experience the pain. You come to terms with the pain, you learn from it, and you let it go. If you're suffering day in, day out over a collection of things, over one thing, you you're sort of holding it on. You're taking that pain that you need to let go and you're putting it on your back and carrying it with you throughout the rest of your life. And as harsh as it sounds, it will tear your life apart. Every morning when you wake up, every night when you go to bed, it's there. When you try to start relationships, meaningful friendships, when you try to start your career, when you interact with just a random stranger on the street, that pain will be there. It will affect you, it'll pull you apart. It will make you wonder why you're so anxious, why you can't talk to people, why you're so sad, why you have no energy, why you wish you weren't alive anymore. All those things. It's terrible. And it's really, really hard. That's one thing I'll always say. It's hard. It's one of the hardest things in life. Trying to, you know, really solve your problems. Because believe me, it's so much easier just to suffer. Just to pack it away. Put it in your pocket every day in, day out. Hopefully maybe it goes away by itself. But since my recovery, I've learned that I have hope. Hope is important because it means that when you have hope, that you truly believe there's a better world for you. And I believe it too. If you suffer through such pain, if you suffer because of something in your past, maybe something in your present, maybe something in your future, I believe there's a better world for you. A world where you don't have to suffer anymore. A world where you can be happy. You can enjoy life. You can look back and know that times are better now. But in order to get there, you have to love yourself. You have to be you have to be kind to yourself. And part of that kindness is a harsh truth that you may have to realize that in some ways you have intentionally sort of avoided avoided the reality that it is that bad. No, you can't handle it. No, you're not okay. And I don't say it out of judgment. I don't say that you're stupid or you're an idiot because you think that way. I think you're human. I know how much it can hurt, and I know how scary that pain can be. But I also know that there's a world where you don't have to live with it anymore. This one's a little close to the heart, so I know my voice sounds a little serious. Usually I like to have a bit more comic relief. But that's because I think it's really important. You have such potential. You have such ability to be wonderful, to be great. And more than anything, you don't deserve the suffering. Never, never say that. No matter what trauma, no matter what things you've been with, never tell yourself you deserve the pain and the suffering. Pain is necessary, but it doesn't mean you deserved it. A harsh piece of life is that people are inflicted pain day in, day out for doing nothing wrong. And sometimes it's so nonsensical that you say, if I've been put through so much suffering, how can this be? I must have done something to deserve it. And you're wrong. You don't deserve it. Like like a forming sword, like steel, like iron, the crucible will make you stronger. The flames, the pain, the adversity, the stress, the anger, the sadness, the misery, the grief. When you encounter these emotions and you come out from the other side, you learn, you grow, you become more of a holistic person. You become sharper, shiny, just like the swords. But remember, a piece of iron or steel that stays in the crucible too long, it doesn't come out okay. It's melted, it's frayed, damaged. I know that you might not want to do it today, might not want to do it tomorrow. But if you are encountering what I'm talking about, if you realize that you're suffering day in and out, that you're just trying to survive rather than living, I urge you to ask for help. Talk to anyone, the people you care about, the people that care about you, a professional, because you're not going to stress them out, or maybe you will, but that's okay. It's okay to stress them out some to get some help because they want you to be better. I want you to be better. It seems kind of odd, seeing as there's obviously people who could be listening that you know I don't know their specific histories personally, but I can say it. I want you to be better. I care. They care. And most importantly, I urge you to care. Care for yourself. There's a world where you don't have to live with it anymore. It's out there. You can do it. You can do it tomorrow. You can do it today. I don't think I have a whole lot more to say on it. I think I've said my piece. I just I want people to be able to do what I did, to finally come out on the other end, get out of the crucible, stronger, better. But it requires a lot of steps, a lot of courage, a lot of faith, a lot of support, a lot of fear, a lot of anxiety, stress. But if you get on the other side, you can be the best person you ought to be. You get to live, and you deserve to live. You deserve to be happy. I think that'll be all for today. And I just want I want there to be at least an idea in your head. Even if you feel like you don't have the courage or the strength to sort of get yourself out of the rut you may have been living in for years upon years. I just want the idea to be there. The idea that says, you don't deserve this pain. You can be happy. You can come out on top. You will be okay. Don't be afraid to try and forge ahead a better future for yourself. All right. Okay. So, sorry. With these solo episodes, they tend to get really personal. So, coming from me, it's sometimes I have to pause in the middle of how I'm saying things because, you know, it gets to me. A really big part of this podcast and the reason I wanted to start it was because I did want to share these experiences that I had and these lessons that I learned so that other people who you know, may not have anyone to sort of rely on or to give them this advice in their life that they would be able to just listen to the podcast and they would sort of get the lessons that both me and Hallie have learned because obviously we've been through our own severely traumatic experiences. And even if it requires me to sort of revisit some very bad memories, I'm not afraid to because I want you guys to be your best selves. I want you guys to be able to conquer your demons. And from the day that this podcast starts to the day that this podcast ends, I want us to always be speaking about how how you can work to be kind to yourself in every facet of your life. Every facet. Because that kindness will heal even the deepest of wounds, the harshest of burns, the most vicious of scars. So, I want to say thank you for tuning into the BKTY podcast. This one ran a little far. Usually I like to shoot for 20 minutes, but I see we're around 30. Hopefully you don't mind the extra 10 minutes. You can find all updates on our Twitter and on our Instagram at BKTY Podcast. And to all of our listeners, you know, sitting down on the couch, sitting outside, going on a run, going on a car drive, don't forget to be kind to yourselves. every minute, every hour, every day. Please be kind to yourself. See you next time.